Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Daryl and I'm an artist and photographer. Today I'm going to be working on a pencil drawing and giving some thoughts on creating art pieces that convey meaning and emotion. Sometimes in life we go through things both good and bad that we can't quite find the words to express to others. It's an experience that feels like it should be relatable and easy to express, but it's also so unique to you that externalizing it never feels quite adequate. We use metaphors and comparisons to try to make things a little more clear to those listening to us, but it never feels quite right. Sure, I can tell you that when I hurt my back a few months ago, the pain was excruciating, but that might fall kind of flat for you if you yourself don't have any benchmarks from which to measure physical pain. So I can try again and tell you that it was as if a sculptor had gathered their materials, carefully lifted up their chisel to the base of my spine and started hammering away. That image might be a bit clearer and is possibly more effective in causing a response in you, but it still doesn't express the despair you feel in the moment of being on the floor with tears welling up in your eyes because you can't get up and no one's around to hear you call out. It doesn't cover the anxiety of laying in your bed that night, afraid that any wrong movement in your sleep could agitate the injury and cause a flare-up before you can make it to the doctors the next day. Being in pain can be pretty isolating. Elaine Scarry once wrote, "To be in pain is to have certainty. To hear of another's pain is to have doubt." And in that moment, I had certainty. Conversely, I think joy is also hard to convey to others, if you want to be precise with it anyway. If you're anything like me, you may not be able to emote the way most people seem to be able to. I'd be hyped about something in my head, but on the outside I look as if I'm bored or aloof. I can't control it. And then other times I look like a 7-year-old opening Christmas gifts. And that's an actual quote from my friends. It can go either way, honestly. For me, I'm an art and physics nerd, so when I'm explaining to my cousin why I'm so excited about this fancy Italian paper I got, that's heavyweight and smooth, but it's got just the right grain and tooth to accept multiple layers of penciling, and how the buildup is buttery smooth and I get less graphite shine than when I use other papers, and so on and so on and so on. I don't blame him for clocking out after 15 minutes of this, because just like trying to explain why a pain in your lower back is so debilitating, it's hard to properly convey why your fondness for this piece of paper is so illuminating. Some of the message gets across, but it can be hard to find the right words. Speaking of finding the right words, I learned a word from lexicographer Susie Dent, a lady who's absolutely brilliant with words that I've grown to love. The word is confelicity, and it means delight in someone else's happiness, and I just love that sentiment. I feel it all the time. My little nephew could be talking my ears off about this little toy truck he got, and he'd be so hype and driving it all over the place, and I would just be smiling the whole time just because his happiness is so infectious. Same with my friends who talk about topics I don't know much about. I try my best to follow what they're saying, but it doesn't really matter because their enthusiasm is infectious enough that it's passed along to me even without understanding all the details. And I think there's something to that. I think a similar thing happens when we create art that means something to us. You sit down with your pencil, your camera, your typewriter, or whatever tool you use to make, and you just start. No judgments about if it's going to be good or bad. You just know that there's something inside you that excites or hurts you, and you want a way to externalize it. Or conversely, that there's an experience or moment you cherish, and you want a way to capture and preserve it. In doing so, you kind of add to the message, and sometimes it resonates with people who are willing to listen, versus just trying to make something that you think people would like. When a piece comes from a genuine place, it sings the tune without the words, to quote Emily Dickinson. There's something John Green once said that was along the lines of, a writer is someone with a lot to say who isn't good at speaking out loud. And I think that's doubly so for us visual artists. We have a lot to say, and we communicate those messages, not with words, but with pictures. If you're happy making the piece, I think some of that joy rubs off on the viewers, and in a way, it becomes a little gift. So, with that in mind, today's piece is an attempt for me to express a feeling that I couldn't quite put words to. It was after my back injury had healed, after the stress of a long period of trials, and coming out on the other side of those trials, more resolute than I was before. Coming out of the fog I was in and seeing things that I'm grateful for more clearly. It felt like, to quote a poem my friend wrote, after spending a year underwater, I was finally coming up for air, and I'm happy to be here. I'll stop trying to find the words now and let the picture say the rest. Thank you for watching, and I hope you're doing well.